Hi everyone, I'm Scott Hoke. Welcome to highlights of our coverage of Mecum Motorcycles Las Vegas 2023.
1926 R42 now, again from BMW.
That's right, the R42 was their touring bike. As you can see, it's considerably evolved from the kind of spindly look of the R32. This is a more robust engine, a little stronger, a little more reliable, a lot faster, but in a very similar chassis to the original bike. In fact, a lot of people think this particular bike is incorrect because the chassis is identical to the R32, but this is a very, very early production example of the R42.
In fact, Herr Fehrenbach tells us that this is the earliest R42 in existence.
Oldest one known.
Yep. Frame number 4, engine number 7. I probably have to say that that's probably accurate statement.
Accurate, yes. This one is basically on a dolly here, guys. And as we can see, it's selling, but it's back in the back of the room and not able to make it up and down the ramp.
More than as found, it's as dragged out of the barn yes. Because it's got a flat rear tire, which is why it's up on a dolly. And Mike Wolf wisely didn't touch it at all. Still got the Chum Me dual seat on it that maybe is a little past its prime. But in truth, the paint doesn't look that bad. I bet if you polish this thing up, it would be acceptable to a lot of riders.
$105,000. Well, here's another motorcycle coming up that Mike Wolf has ridden with regularity, and you can see why. It is a 1936 EL Knucklehead.
Well, this is a first-year Knucklehead, which is actually a very rare motorcycle.
Right.
It's Indian's first overhead valve road-going V-twin. They were so nervous about launching this bike, they never advertised it. They never cataloged it in 1936. They kind of slipped it into the market, and of course it became a huge seller later on. But these first-year bikes are pretty rare. I think they only made a few thousand, I think under 3,000.
And there's Mike Wolf at the top deciding, is this enough for him to either meet or lift his reserve?
Yep.
Big decision time for Mike.
Is that it? Reserve's off. Yes, Clint Hunter says he got the word from Mike. Reserve's off.
$120,000.
As we get set to take a look at a 1929 R63 Sport, Paul, give us a little bit of an insight on Hubert Fehrenbach, the guy who restored all these motorcycles and still lives in the Black Forest region of Germany.
And he's been a professional restorer for decades. He does superb work. He sourced a lot of these bikes actually in the Eastern Europe, so East Germany and Bulgaria, Romania, Czechoslovakia. And he said a lot of them were running or were hidden away during World War II. The Sport is exceptionally rare. This is the only one I've ever seen. 2 or 3 exist. Has an extra large carburetor. This was a 750 overhead valve sports bike.
So there we go, Paul. You're not surprised to see a $130,000 hammer price, are you?
Not a bit, and actually I think that's a pretty good price.
Okay.
It's a very rare bike.
Look at this, 1922 Ace Sporting Solo on the turntable right now, and look at the money that it's bringing.
Ace was the fastest motorcycle in the world when it was introduced in 1919, designed by William Henderson, who had founded his own motorcycle company in 1912, Henderson Motorcycles, the Duesenberg of motorcycles, luxurious, elegant, but they lost money on every single one they sold. They sold out the brand to Ignaz Schwinn for the Excelsior Henderson line. He worked for Schwinn for maybe a year and got tired of it. Designed a completely new 4-cylinder motorcycle that infringed none of the design of the Henderson. Got financial backing, called it the Ace. It was instantly the hot rod of the American scene.
Reserve came off at $130,000, everyone, and now you see that a $50,000 bump. Indian Ace 4 next from 1927.
And I mentioned this is the first Indian 4. It says Indian Ace because Indian bought Ace, And these first models are basically Ace motorcycles, assembled by Indian from spares that they bought from the defunct Ace Motorcycle Company. Changes would come, but some people think that these original Indian Aces are the most compelling because they were the first of the Indian 4s.
All right, well, there we have it. Great bidding. A lot of folks wanting that 27 Indian Ace 4, but that guy right there just bought it at $195,000.
Well, next up for us is from 1925, an R37 model, as we continue to help celebrate 100 years of BMW motorcycle production, guys.
Big boy right here, Paul. Best in the world, perhaps?
And an original, real example of BMW's first ever overhead valve sporting / racing motorcycle. And look at that beautiful, beautiful machine. Very early, you'll see there's still a lot of similarities with the R42. This is 2 years after the factory started making motorcycles. Look how sophisticated this motorcycle is for 1925. Flat twin overhead valve motorcycle, 3-speed gearbox, shaft drive. It was fast, it was reliable, and so rare. In fact, I think I've only ever seen one other R37 go across the auction block.
Oh, look at that beautiful machine. And it sells for $200,000. Okay, next up on the block is the 1925 BMW R42.
This is BMW's first ever motorcycle, and this is an authentic 1925 R32. It's completely correct. It even has a period sort of sporting badge on the top of the tank for an event the original owner attended way back in 1925.
Well, and we're not kidding. That is on a misprint. Right now, we are at $200,000. The reserve is off. This was fully expected. And look at the design of this motorcycle going back to 1925. That boxer twin layout, the shaft drive setup, just so identifiable with BMW for so many years, but began back in this time period.
Set the pattern.
Yep.
Wow, $200,000. Coming up, it is a 1908 Harley-Davidson strap tank. One of the most coveted motorcycles on the planet.
Could very well be the highest selling motorcycle at this auction, Paul. It was discovered back in 1941 as a complete bike in a Wisconsin barn just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Spent most of its life, in fact, in Wisconsin. About 450 of these were built by Harley. There's about a dozen thought to survive, and this may be, if not the best one, certainly in the top 2 or 3.
Yeah, and they only built the strap tank for a few years. It's called that because obviously they used straps to hold the fuel tank onto the frame. And bidding is pushing towards 7 figures here.
Wow. Wow.
So there we go, $850,000 for the 1908 Harley-Davidson strap tank.
Not going to top that this auction.
No, sir. John, you were right. I think that sets the record for the highest selling motorcycle we have ever had at Mecum Auctions here in Las Vegas. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Mecum Accelerated. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Scott Hoke. So long, everyone.